can say is, wow, this was an absolutely brutal week one. And there were some of these predictions that I made that I knew were probably not going to be correct. But some of these games were just plain weird. And, yeah, we'll talk about it obviously, but I'm going to be doing a lot of reevaluating of teams after this, just to kind of, figure out what I feel about who. Definitely changed my mind about a lot of these teams after this season, or after this week, excuse me. But the NFL's back, week one is in the book, so as bad as this week was for me for predictions, well, for me, there's nowhere to go but up, but I think there's going to be a lot of interesting storylines this season, which will be fun to watch. Okay. Let's get into it here, and I should say, adjusting to the time zone, I was able to watch 4 games this week, which is pretty good. That's about how many per week I was able to watch while living in the States. I watched Ravens, Chiefs, Packers, Eagles, Seahawks versus the Broncos, and the Jets versus the 49ers. So, even though the games were coming on at like 4 in the morning for me, I still managed to watch 4 of them, which was pretty good. So Ravens, Chiefs, I predicted the Ravens and the Chiefs. Oh, hold on, that's not how I do these things. Hold on. This is how I do these things. I predicted the Ravens and the Chiefs ended up winning this game. It was close though, 20-27. And honestly, the Ravens, they had ample opportunity there at the end to send this game to overtime. But Lamar had 2 attempts there with wide open receivers in the end zone and overthrew the one quite badly. I don't know if it's just the pressure of the moment or what. Now, early on in this game, the first half especially, I had a lot of concerns about the Ravens' offensive line. Now, I didn't know if that was just the Chiefs' defense was looking really good, or if there was something wrong with the Ravens' offensive line personally. My opinion at the time was more that the Ravens' O-line was not holding up well to the pressure that the Chiefs were bringing. Now when they were running the ball with Derrick Henry and of course Lamar Jackson, I thought the Ravens looked really good in the first half. But any sort of attempts to drop back, the pockets were quickly collapsing and this, that, and the other. Sorry, I just heard a weird noise over there. But in the second half, the Ravens, the offensive line looked a bit better. They were holding up a bit better. And you see that, they didn't score in the third, they scored in the fourth, but they just looked better in the second half, in my opinion. Now, Worthy, that dude is fast for the Chiefs. He got that 21-yard rushing touchdown. I think that was his first touch of the game as well. He is going to be an absolute weapon for this Kansas City Chiefs offense. This wasn't the Brazil game, was it? Or was this which was the Brazil game? That was Packers Eagles, yeah. So this wasn't the game where the field was an issue. In Brazil, the field is a bit of an issue. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, the Chiefs look really good. Obviously, they win this game by 7. I felt like they potentially could have won it by a bit more, but their rushing game is extremely potent. Isaiah Pacheco, I'm seeing he only averaged 3 yards per carry, but watching the game it felt like more than that. Every time Pacheco touched the ball, it felt like something was going to happen there. Now what? Let me quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Because who I'm trying to. I can't think of his name at the moment. I can't think of his name at the moment. The Chiefs wide receiver. There was some controversy there. His name is just escaping me at the moment. There was the fumble by Lamar. The strip sack on Lamar. Pretty early on, I think that resulted in a Chiefs field goal. As well. Sorry, this game was obviously a little bit ago. I think the Ravens will bounce back from this, especially if, going into the future, they perform more like they did in the second half than they did in the first half. Especially that O-line, and if Lamar gets a bit more time to throw, that was the only thing. Like, his passing game was a little bit iffy to me in this. Especially obviously there at the end with Zay Flowers wide open and overthrowing him. But the Ravens, they faced potentially the best team in the league, and they only lost by 7, and they should have sent it to overtime. Like I said, final score 27-20 in favor of the Kansas City Chiefs. Lamar Jackson, 26 completions on 41 attempts, 273 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Patrick Mahomes, 20 completions on 28 attempts, 291 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Packers, Eagles. I predicted that the Packers would win this year, and the Eagles ended up winning it 29-34 in favor of the Philadelphia Eagles. And like I said, this was the game that was played in Brazil. And the field was, I don't know if it was just like wet or if it was because it was, I don't know what it was, but the field was very slippery. There were multiple instances of guys just falling down without being touched. Things of that nature, very weird overall. And it kind of, it impacted the game a little bit. Like it was kind of, I was watching the game, but I was kind of like, I felt like I would have much rather have had this been either in Philadelphia or in Green Bay than in Brazil, especially because I don't feel like the NFL needs to be expanding into the Brazilian market. I know that they're trying to expand the game. They do the London games every year. They did Munich last year. Because we kind of know that at some point in the future the NFL is going to put a team in England or in Europe. 1 or 2 teams will be in Europe. But I don't think they're ever going to put an NFL team in Brazil, so I don't really know why they were doing that. Now, Jordan Love does go down with an injury towards the end of the game. But from what I have seen, it doesn't appear to be anything serious. It shouldn't keep him out long term. Okay, MCL sprain, expected to miss 3 to 6 weeks. So 3 to 6 weeks. That's not great. And his backup is is their backup? Malik Willis. Okay, so the Green Bay Packers are going to lose a lot for the next 3 to 6 weeks. Now, I thought their offense did look pretty good, especially later in this game. But the Eagles, they were 1.5 point favorite. I was critical of the Eagles' offense and Jalen Hurts last season, and I still did see some issues there. Jalen Hurts had 2 interceptions this game, but Jordan Love also had an interception. And like I said, the field conditions were not the greatest, so maybe we'll wait until next week to really try and judge that. But it has to be said, I feel like the Philadelphia Eagles are desperately missing Jason Kelce here. I don't think I'm saying anything controversial. There were a couple botched snaps. I think one of was it a fumble? I'm trying to remember exactly, but I think there was a fumble that happened because of a botched snap from the center. Now, obviously, that's something that will come with time. That should theoretically get better. But I have to say, the weapons, Saquon Barkley looked really, really good in this game. 109 yards on 24 carries, 2 rushing touchdowns. A.J. Brown looked really good, 119 yards on 5 receptions. So the offensive weapons that Philadelphia had, the playmakers they have there, they put in work, and I thought the defense looked pretty good as well. 5-point win for Philly. The Packers, unfortunately, I think are in for some pain in the coming days with Jordan Love going down. I guess we'll see how the backup does. But yeah, this Philadelphia team, I think they'll probably be better than I anticipated them to be. Jordan Love has 17 completions on 34 attempts, 260 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jalen Hurts, 20 completions on 34 attempts, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Steelers versus Falcons. I predicted the Falcons here. The Falcons were one of my dark horse playoff contender teams. I really liked the moves the Falcons made this offseason. I'm a big Kirk Cousins fan. I thought the Falcons overperformed expectations last season, and I thought with some of the moves, the free agency, the draft, the trades that they made this offseason, I expected them to be a real force. Maybe not a Super Bowl contender, but certainly a playoff team. And with the Steelers team, I thought their QB room was really weak. You had Justin Fields starting this week. Russell Wilson was inactive. They have a good defense in Pittsburgh, obviously what is the German one? Led by DJ Watt in Pittsburgh. But I was very, I didn't think their offense really had anything, and now to be honest, they didn't really do too much of this game. They only ever scored field goals this game, not a single rushing or passing touchdown. But it was enough to get them the win. I don't know how sustainable that is going forward, but the Falcons really did not show me here what I wanted to see from them. 8-point win for the Steelers, 18-10. Justin Fields has 17 completions on 23 attempts, 156 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Kirk Cousins has 16 completions on 26 attempts, 155 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. So we'll see what happens to Atlanta going forward. Maybe it's just chemistry issues. Maybe it's just cobwebs with Kirk. Obviously he didn't play in preseason, recovering from an injury. We'll see how he does going forward. Vikings, Giants. I really thought this. I still think this Vikings team is going to be bad. I think I just maybe underestimated how bad this Giants team is. This New York Giants team might be one of the worst teams in the entire league this year. I thought they would at least be able to get a win here against the Vikings with, their new shiny quarterback gone, with, their second best receiver gone. I thought the Vikings team seemed dead in the water. Even Vikings fans were like, wake me up when next season starts. But Sam Darnold, the QBS, came in and he got the win in MetLife Stadium. And listen, I've been a big Daniel Jones hater for a long time. I think that he's done. Obviously he's not done, but I think he's just, I don't think he's not a guy. I don't think he's a guy. I don't know, because you have Sam Darnold to come in and hang this kind of performance on your team. Yeah, this Giants team is going to be a lot worse than I expected. 28 points for this Vikings team without Jordan Addison. Justin Jefferson didn't even have to do much. He only got the ball 4 times for 59 yards. 1 touchdown. Daniel Jones threw a pick 6. Yeah. Sam Darnold, 19 completions on 24 attempts, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Daniel Jones, 22 completions on 42 attempts, 186 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. And like I said, one of those was a pick 6. Finally in the sea of this bloodbath, we get a little bit of green. I predicted the Dolphins to beat the Jaguars, and they did. And I have to say, the same exact thing that I was complaining about last season with the Jaguars is happening again. Trevor Lawrence is not throwing the ball enough. And I don't know if this is a coaching decision or what. In preseason, and I talked about in my predictions video, in preseason, I was like, okay, the Jaguars' offense is finally a bit more free-flowing. The receivers are getting more involved, the ball's in the air more. Like, this is all stuff I noticed in preseason for the Jaguars. And then they completely went away from that in this game against the Dolphins. Trevor Lawrence only threw the ball 21 times. Tua Tagovailoa had more pass completions than Trevor Lawrence had pass attempts. And it's not like their rushing game was that potent. Okay, they had 128 yards rushing, but Miami had more passing yards than Jacksonville had combined passing and rushing yards. I just don't know what the issue is here with Jacksonville and their refusal to allow Trevor Lawrence to throw. Now, I know that they had the lead early because it was Miami that they came back to win this. But even then, it's like you have to trust this guy. He was people were calling this guy generational. Like, you have to trust him to throw the ball. And last season, when they were in that pit and they worked their way out of it and they were at the top of their division, they did that by allowing Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball. Now, he was throwing interceptions, but he was also throwing touchdowns as well. And this is the same thing that happened last season. But then what happened is they got to the top of the division by letting Trevor Lawrence play his game. And then immediately they went conservative again. They didn't let him pass. They went rush. And then they started losing games again. And I don't know why. Just let him air it out. Let him air it out. I don't know why there's so much trepidation here. But yeah, like I said, a ton of passing, 319 passing yards for the Dolphins. Really, really good. Tyreek gets a passing touchdown. for an 80-yarder. Like, only putting up 20 against the Jaguars, maybe a little bit. Like, I would have liked to have made them do a little bit more, but the Dolphins look like they should be right back in the mix this season like they were last year. Trevor Lawrence has 12 completions on 21 attempts, 162 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks. Tua Tagovailoa has 23 completions on 37 attempts, 338 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Okay, if you are anybody other than a Patriots homer fan, and you predicted the Patriots to beat the Bengals, raise your hand. Now put them down because you are absolutely lying. I predicted the Bengals to win this game. Everybody predicted the Bengals to win this game. The Bengals lost this game. All season, the talk of this Patriots team was that the offensive line is so bad that they are not going to allow the rookie QB, to play. I want to say Mac Jones, but that's the last guy. The QB they just drafted who looked really good in preseason that the Patriots just got. I'm sorry, it's 12 o'clock in the morning, but he looked really good in preseason. Drake May looked really good in preseason, but the offensive line for this Patriots team is so bad they weren't going to allow him to play the regular season. That's straight up just what people were saying. So you have Jacoby Brissett starting instead. So right away you put that as an L on the chalkboard. You're like, well, okay, so the worst of the two quarterbacks is now starting. Jacoby Brissett, career journeyman, against this Swiss cheese offensive line. And the Cincinnati Bengals team is a team that they have aspirations to try and get to the Super Bowl this year. They have Joe Burrow, they have Jamar Chase. The Patriots beat them by 16 to 10. And I didn't realize this, Zach Taylor, he is, I think, 1-for-10. 1 win, 10 losses through the first 2 weeks over the last, since he's been head coach. So in week 1 and week 2 of the NFL season, since he's been head coach, he's only won 1 time. Doesn't matter who the competition is. Now that's interesting to me, because that to me says that he's not doing the right stuff to get the team ready during the preseason to start the season off right. I don't know, maybe it's that, maybe it's just something different, maybe it's the personnel, maybe it's the roster. But I still think this is very alarming. The Bengals, this Patriots team was predicted to be one of the worst teams in the league. This was basically a tanking year for them. And the Bengals were predicted to be, like I said, they want to compete for a Super Bowl. And I'm not saying that's impossible now, right? It's only week 1, but there definitely should be alarm bells in Cincinnati right now. They need to, have some serious conversations right now. I don't know if you need to replace the head coach. Maybe you do. Maybe if he loses next week, you look at getting rid of the coach. But yeah, this is just this is a bad loss. Jacoby Brissett, 15 completions on 24 attempts, 121 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Joe Burrow, 21 completions on 29 attempts, 164 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Cardinals, Bills, mercifully, I get another win here. But the Cardinals actually did a lot better than I expected them to do here. 28-34 is your final score. The rushing game, Kyler Murray, all of that, and I think this game was was your first game with a kick return touchdown under the new kickoff rules. And I saw all sorts of back and forth hullabaloo about the new kickoff rules. Me personally, I liked them. I liked seeing more kick returns. Touchbacks were down in like the first two games, or even Chiefs and Packers Eagles. I think touchdowns were or touchbacks were up in those two games, but then through the rest of the week, they were down, like on average. So I think it is adding some more excitement, and I think you had at least 2 kick return touchdowns, maybe more. Maybe it was just 1, but I feel like there was 2, and one of them was in this game for the Cardinals. Yeah, this Cardinals team might be better than anticipated, obviously putting up 28 points against a very good Bills team. Again, a team who, like the Bengals, like the Dolphins, thinks that they can compete for a Super Bowl this season. Kyler Murray has 21 completions on 31 attempts, 162 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions. Josh Allen, 18 completions on 23 attempts, 232 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Which is nice to see. Week 1, Josh Allen, no interceptions. Texans, Colts. I predicted the Texans here, but I'm really pleased as a fan of this Colts team. Understation. As a fan of Anthony Richardson, I like what I see here. Now, I don't like that they only had Anthony Richardson attempt 19 passes. I'd like to see him using the arm a little bit more. But obviously he is the dual threat. We know that he gets a rushing touchdown in this game towards the end of the game. But I really liked what I saw for Anthony Richardson in this game as an Anthony Richardson fan. He stayed healthy throughout the length of the game, which is good. And he showed that he belongs, so that's exactly what I like to see. I have really high expectations for him. I'd like to see him continue to perform well. CJ Stroud did not miss a step from his performance last season. And this Texans team, which is much improved, a lot of sports books have them in the top 4, top 5 odds to win the Super Bowl. They definitely looked at here on 29 points. CJ Stroud balled out. Stephon Diggs had 2 touchdowns off of 6 receptions. Didn't drop a single pass, so CJ Stroud and Stephon Diggs getting a little bit of that connection there. I'm really excited to see where both of these teams go this season. The Colts, I think they could shock some people. I think they're going to be better than I expected, better than a lot of people expected. CJ Stroud goes 24 completions on 32 attempts, 234 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Anthony Richardson, 9 completions on 19 attempts, 212 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. It has to be said, Joe Mixon here for Houston gets 159 yards off 30 carries and a rushing touchdown. The Bengals probably could have used him. The Bengals probably would have won their game if they still had Joe Mixon. Okay, Titans, Bears, an absolutely awful game of football here. But hey, you know what? I have to eat my words. I predicted the Bears to lose this one, and my reasoning was simple. I bet against rookie QBs in week 1 pretty much as a rule. And Caleb Williams has now become the very first quarterback taken at first overall to win week 1 since 2002. I think since 2002, first overall quarterbacks taken first overall in week 1 have been 0, 14, and 1. They basically always lose, and they have for the last 22 years. So that was my thinking, like, well, they haven't won for the last 22 years. I'm not expecting them to break the trend. really think he was responsible here. I'm gonna be honest. You know, he had fewer than 100 passing yards in this game. And Chicago had 148 combined yards passing and rushing. I still think they're going to be a fairly bad team. The fact that the over-under on this game was 42.5 points is insane. But that defense, I think their defense is good. The Chicago defense is better than I was anticipating it to be. And good God, Will Levis, this was not a good game for him. 17-24 in favor of the Bears is your final score. Will Levis has 19 completions on 32 attempts, 127 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. One of those is the game-sealing pick 6. And Caleb Williams, 14 completions on 29 attempts, 93 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But yeah, I mean, this game was a comeback by the Bears, and it was basically all defense. Blocked, punt, return, touchdown in the third quarter, and then the pick 6 at the end of the fourth to go ahead by a touchdown. But credit to the defense, they got it done. Speaking of another team that fooled me with their preseason performances, the Carolina Panthers. I don't know if you guys heard me in the prediction video saying like, oh, Bryce Young, looks like he finally figured it out. Looks like he's caught up to NFL game speed. If you heard that garbage coming out of my mouth, Bryce Young is trash. I'm being harsh. He's not trash. I know. Part of me was very. There's sirens. Part of me was very critical of the pick when the Panthers did it. I was critical of the trade, even, to be honest. I feel like there were so many good quarterbacks in the draft. Trading up to get the shortest, smallest guy, in my opinion, it felt like a trade that could get a GM fired if it goes wrong. And it's looking like it might be going wrong. Bryce Young looked completely lost in this game. He looked like a deer in the headlights. I mean, credit to the Saints defense, I suppose. I mean, they obviously played a big factor in that, but I don't think it would have mattered who he was playing in this game. Like, it just was bad. So no, my hopes of maybe Carolina's turned it around. No. Last season I had a hard and fast rule, always bet against Carolina every week. I am reinstating that rule until proven wrong. Bryce Young has 13 completions on 30 attempts, 161 yards, 0 passing touchdowns. He does have 1 rushing touchdown, but it was a fumble recovery off a handoff. And he has 2 interceptions. Derek Carr has 19 completions on 23 attempts, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But, Derek Carr, a guy I've been critical of in the past, this looks like one of his best games in a while. So, that's at least good news if you're a New Orleans Saints fan. Finally, thankfully, another green Raiders-Chargers. I predicted the Chargers to get the win here. They did, although Justin Herbert didn't really do that much this game. But I did notice, I saw a video. I can't take credit for this. I saw a video somebody else posted. Joe Alt, the offensive lineman that the Chargers took in this draft, is an absolute beast. Someone was highlighting his matchups against Max Crosby. Not only was he matched up against Max Crosby on multiple, rushes, he never allowed a single pressure against Max Crosby. Max Crosby, one of the best at his position in the entire league. And Joe Walt completely shut him down this game, which is a huge pickup for this Chargers team. Completely, it just opens up their offense, allows more time for Justin Herbert, more decisions, all that stuff. 10-22 is your final score here. Gardner Minshew starting for the Raiders. He gets 25 completions on 33 attempts, 257 yards, a touchdown, a pick. Justin Herbert, 17 completions on only 26 attempts, 144 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 picks. He cut his hair and he lost his riz. Hate to see it. Now, another game that I watched, I had to watch the debut of my Seahawks, and we got the W there. 26-20 in favor of Seattle. I was pretty confident we'd win this game. It was a lot closer than I was comfortable with. Sort of similar to the Ravens game in the first half. Our offensive line was really bad. Geno Smith, like the minute the ball was snapped, Geno Smith was getting pressured. And I do not think that this Denver team is a particularly potent pass rush, so that's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on going into the future against stronger teams. But this was a tale of two halves, basically. The entire second half of this game was all Seattle. Charbonnet had an amazing passing touchdown. Geno Smith had a crazy rushing touchdown, a 34-yard rush. But I have to say something I noticed in this game. Bo Nix, I don't know why Sean Payton was doing this, but Bo Nix was basically only ever throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. He was either handing the ball off for the rush, or if he was passing, it was a behind the line of scrimmage pass. There was a play, I remember, it was like 3rd and long. I don't know if it's because he got sacked or there was a penalty or something, but I want to say it was like 3rd and 15 or 3rd and 20. And this was towards, I think this might have been when the score was pretty close. It was only a 6-point game. Bo Nix drops back to pass, and he throws like a 1-yard pass to a receiver who has a defender like just 2-3 yards in front of him downfield, who reps him up and takes him down. And I was just like, why would you make that play call? Like, if you're the coach, why are you calling that play? Like, you know that that receiver is not gonna get the first down. So I just don't know why you're even making that read. And there was one interception that Bo Nix threw early, I want to say. I think it was an end zone interception. And he was just staring at his target the entire time he was dropping back. It was actually crazy. Like, he literally never looked at his second or his third read. He got the ball, dropped back, just stared down his receiver in the end zone, threw it, and it was intercepted. So it's just things like that. Again, this is why I bet against rookies week 1, but if the coaches aren't going to allow him to throw more than 2-3 yards downfield, like, I don't even know why you're playing him. He's not going to learn the game that way. You have to be willing to let him make mistakes. Bo Nix, 26 completions on 42 attempts, 138 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Geno Smith, 18 completions on 25 attempts, 171 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Commanders, Buccaneers. I predicted the Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers won. Honestly, there's more green here than I was expecting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's better than I thought. So Jaden Daniels starting here for Washington. Baker Mayfield, of course, is in for Tampa Bay, and Baker just absolutely lights it up this week. 37-20 in favor of the Buccaneers. Not a huge surprise, obviously. These teams are fairly mismatched, but the Buccaneers might be better than I was expecting him to be this year. They look pretty good. Jane Dale, 17 completions, 24 attempts, 184 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Baker Mayfield, 24 completions on 30 attempts, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Maybe the best quarterback performance of week 1 here is Baker Mayfield. QB rating of 146.4. I think that's the best I've seen so far. Cowboys, Browns. I thought the Browns would win here. I thought their offense would be good enough. And I thought that their defense would really win them this game, especially with Dallas starting 2 rookies on the offensive line. But no, the Dallas Cowboys, they proved me wrong here, and they blew out the Browns 33-17. Dak Prescott, 19 completions on 32 attempts, 179 yards, a touchdown, no picks. Deshaun Watson, 24 completions on 45 attempts, 169 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. It has to be said, like, Deshaun Watson's regression has been absolutely insane. Like, as much as Bill criticized the team, rightfully in my opinion, for giving him that big contract after the controversy, at least you could be like, well, as cynical as it is, they did it because he's a really good quarterback. But then ever since he's come back on his suspension, he has just played really poorly. And I saw this pretty funny clip, I think it's from PFT. They were like, is there an argument that Deshaun Watson is a better person now than he is a football player? Yeah, kind of just a tongue-in-cheek thing, of course, obviously, but yeah, again, the Browns, if Deshaun Watson hasn't figured out, this could be a rough year for the Browns. Because like I said, their defense is, I think, absolutely elite. Like, total yardage here for the Dallas Cowboys is only 265. Like, they held them under 300 yards. I think that Browns defense is really, really good, as it was last season as well, but the offense needs to be there as well, and right now it's just not. Rams, Lions, I predicted the Lions. They did win it, but honestly it was a little bit touch and go, and there was a point there, like kind of late, even a little bit early as well. I think that the first couple of drives with the Lions, I was kind of looking at them like, this Lions offense is not what I remember it looking like, and I can even say I think this Rams offense was better than this Lions offense for sure. The Lions do get the win, but this was a lot closer than I think anybody's expecting it to, and this game ends up going to overtime. If you're the Lions, this is not the start of the season you wanted, even though it is a W, but you probably were hoping or thinking this was going to be a fairly pain-free win. I mean, the Rams are a team that can shock people, I think, just because their offense is so good and they have so many weapons, right? But I don't think anybody has them pegged to, like, go to the Super Bowl yet. Many people did think the Lions would be a Super Bowl contender. They're in the top 4 betting odds, right? So for this game to be this close, and to force it to be in overtime, for it to be settled, I think there definitely needs to be some questions being asked in Detroit. Jared Goff especially, he did not seem to be handling the pressure well in that first half. He made some pretty bad decisions passing the ball in that first half. Matthew Stafford, 34 completions on 49 attempts, 317 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Jared Goff, 18 for 28, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. In our final game, the Jets versus the Niners, I predicted the 49ers, and they do get the win here. Aaron Rodgers loses in his return after his injury. I thought though, except for that one interception, which I thought was a bad pass, beyond that, I actually thought Aaron Rodgers looked decent this game. But it really really felt like his receivers were just having a hell of a time trying to get open. And then there's the weird thing with, like, at one point Sauce Gardner wasn't playing. And they're like, oh, it's not injury related. But it's like, well, why isn't he playing? It was really, really weird thing that happened there. If you're the 49ers getting this win against the Jets, when you don't have Christian McCaffrey, he was sitting this game. That's good. Brock Purdy, he looked good. 231 yards for him. But, you know, I thought the 49ers looked potent on both sides of the ball, offensively, defensively. And they had a two-pronged attack there. They're killing them both on the rush and through the air. I really felt like for the Jets, they never really got off the runway, so to speak. The Jets 19, the 49ers 32. Aaron Rodgers, he has 13 completions on 21 attempts, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick per Brock Purdy. 19 completions on 29 attempts, 231 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. But, you know, honestly, that's not bad. I was expecting a lot worse, but there were 16 games. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I went 8 for 16. I got 50%. I'm not gonna be mad about 60%. I'm not gonna be mad about 50. Starting the week off, I barely paid attention this preseason and this off season, and I went 50-50 week 1. I'm actually not mad about that. I thought it was gonna be a lot worse than this, but there we go. Week 1 is in the book. Let me know what you thought of the games this week, how your favorite teams performed. I'd love to hear comments down below. But anyway, guys, if you liked the video, please leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this almost every single day.